Indeed, a very special and for a slightly overwhelming day for now my wife and Duchess.
In a shocking turn of events, Prince Edward's lawyer has reportedly made bold claims about alleged DNA reports involving Lilibet DNA, sparking widespread speculation. While the matter was expected to stay private, these claims have fueled debate, with some believing they could change public understanding, while others see them as exaggerated rumors. The discussion quickly turned toward Meghan Markle, with questions about how such claims might affect her reputation. Her story begins in a familiar way, with reports linking her childbirth to the well-known Portland Hospital in London, often associated with royal births. However, public reaction was unusually intense, with increased curiosity and skepticism from some commentators. Prince Edward's lawyer became one of the strongest critics, rejecting many online claims while also raising his own concerns. He argued that Meghan Markle's pregnancy timeline showed inconsistencies, pointing to conflicting reports, unclear dates, and public appearances that did not always seem to align. He even questioned whether the public narrative fully reflected reality. He also focused on photographs and videos, suggesting they sometimes created confusion. Differences in appearance, posture, or presentation led him to believe there was a pattern rather than coincidence, though many others argue such changes are normal due to angles, clothing, and natural variation. According to him, the issue went beyond simple privacy and involved shaping public perception. He further claimed that an insider had shared timelines and records that did not match public statements, though none of these claims have been proven. As he continued, he grew more frustrated, saying he was tired of accepting every version of Meghan Markle's story without question. He argued she carefully shapes her public image and claimed certain pregnancy moments were used to influence public perception. He also suggested staff worked behind the scenes to maintain a controlled narrative. He pointed to examples like reported illness despite energetic appearances and emotional moments followed by normal activity, calling them patterns rather than coincidence. He even claimed multiple versions of the birth story may have been prepared and referenced the interview with Oprah Winfrey as carefully presented. Reactions were mixed, with some defending Meghan Markle and others supporting scrutiny. Her silence added to debate, while the lawyer insisted questions remained. In contrast, Catherine, Princess of Wales's public appearances after childbirth were seen as clear, traditional, and consistent. Motherhood in these moments appeared graceful, open, and shared with the public, seen by many as a sign of duty and genuine happiness rather than an attempt to impress. In contrast, some observers found Meghan Markle's pregnancy confusing, noting that small details seemed to change during public appearances. At times her baby bump looked clearly visible and she moved carefully, while at other moments she appeared more relaxed and active, leading to mixed reactions. Some photos showed noticeable differences in appearance within short periods, which drew attention, although others explained this through angles, clothing, and posture. Because of these variations, certain observers began comparing images and building timelines, believing they saw a pattern rather than isolated changes. This discussion quickly spread online, increasing curiosity and uncertainty. When claims about possible documents and timelines later emerged, some felt their doubts grew stronger, though nothing was proven. Reports suggested scheduling details and public appearances did not always align, raising further questions for some people. There were also mentions of a possible home birth at Frogmore Cottage, adding to the narrative of a more private approach. However, the actual birth was later announced as taking place on June 4, 2021, at Santa Barbara Cottage Hospital in California. While the hospital birth itself was normal, the lack of explanation for the change from earlier expectations stood out. This silence led to even more curiosity, as many people expected at least a brief clarification when such a major detail shifted, keeping the debate ongoing. Neither the palace nor Meghan Markle commented, and the story appeared to shift without explanation. This silence led people to recheck interviews, statements, and timelines, raising more questions. Prince Edward's lawyer then criticized the situation, claiming multiple versions of Lilibet's birth announcement were prepared in advance. He pointed to confusion involving Buckingham Palace, saying Prince Harry and Meghan Markle informed the palace hours after the birth, leaving officials with limited details and leading to conflicting public statements. Critics argued the palace was left out deliberately, suggesting the timing and messaging were controlled. The lawyer used this to claim Meghan Markle's public image was carefully managed. In her interview with Oprah Winfrey, she spoke about feeling unsupported, but later reports suggested staff worked extensively to meet her needs and that she missed some meetings she was invited to. Critics said this created a gap between her public claims and internal accounts. Despite growing debate, Meghan Markle did not respond publicly. No statements, interviews, or legal actions addressed the claims. This silence stood out to some observers, with the lawyer arguing it increased doubt. As a result, online discussions shifted, and even some supporters began questioning the situation as speculation continued to grow. Instead of saying the criticism was unfair, some people began wondering why there was no response or explanation if the claims were not true. As time passed, these questions became more common. At the same time, critics and commentators filled the gap with their own views. They shared timelines, rewatched interviews, and circulated documents and clips. With no official response, speculation grew, and many people formed opinions based more on the lack of reply than on proven facts. Prince Harry's silence was also widely discussed by commentators. Why would such a high level of privacy be maintained? Could it point to deeper trust issues? These questions continued to grow. Suspicion around Meghan Markle and Prince Harry increased as earlier interviews, especially the well-known conversation with Oprah Winfrey, were examined again more closely by critics and commentators. Some said they noticed patterns in how emotions were expressed, the timing of answers, and how the interview was presented overall. In their view, this made the conversation feel less spontaneous and more carefully prepared. Another argument raised by critics, including Prince Edward's lawyer, was that Meghan Markle's pregnancy and experience of motherhood became a central part of her public identity. They suggested this made it harder for people to openly criticize her, since society often reacts more protectively toward pregnant women and new mothers. As a result, they argued that when criticism increased, attention often shifted away from the original issue and toward her emotional state, pregnancy stress, or personal well-being. In this way, motherhood itself became part of the public discussion and shaped how people responded to her story. As different parts of the discussion were looked at together, the situation became more complex than expected. Some observers carefully examined photographs, searching for small details or differences they felt did not fully align. At the same time, there were ongoing conversations about documents, timelines, and how events were being reported. Others pointed out that the story seemed to be described differently in various accounts over time. Alongside all of this, there was still no clear, detailed public explanation from those directly involved. When all these elements came together, the issue expanded beyond questions about photos, hospital timing, or announcements. It turned into a wider conversation about trust. People were no longer only asking whether specific details were accurate, but whether the overall narrative could be fully relied upon. For some, the focus shifted from isolated facts to the broader question of credibility. The central question gradually changed from what exactly happened to whether the story being presented could be trusted at all. When people begin to feel that something doesn't fully add up, doubt usually doesn't appear all at once. It develops slowly. At first, it is just a slight uncertainty, then it becomes a habit of noticing details more closely, and over time it can grow into deeper questioning of the entire narrative. People may begin rewatching interviews, rereading statements, or revisiting past appearances to look for anything unclear or inconsistent. This raises a wider question: what does the public expect from the monarchy? Full transparency, or a more protective approach when it comes to the Sussexes? The discussion around contrasts in royal appearances often focuses on small details rather than one clear issue. Critics argue that over time, these small points can feel connected when viewed together. These include changes in how timelines are explained, differences in public communication, carefully managed media moments, and announcements that sometimes appear planned in advance. Limited responses to public questions have also added to uncertainty for some observers. Individually, each point may have a simple explanation, but together they can create a sense of inconsistency for some people. In such cases, the public often tries to fill in gaps, which can lead to speculation. This becomes more noticeable when compared with other royal appearances, such as those of Catherine, Princess of Wales, whose post-birth public moments often followed a more structured and consistent pattern. As a result, discussions continue about privacy, transparency, and how different approaches shape public trust in the monarchy.